It being 7 p.m. on Wednesday, October 4th, 2023, we will begin tonight's Select Board meeting. First item on the agenda is public comment. Is there anyone here for public comment? There being none. The next item on the agenda is the review of minutes for September 6th, 2023. What's the pleasure of the board?
I'll move to approve the minutes from September 6, 2023.
Second. Any discussion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Next item on the agenda, Fire Chief Michael Lutz. If you want to come up to the table, please.
Michael Lutz, the Fire Chief. So I notified Michael that I wanted to go on public comment about an event that happened in Clinton. And once I had done that, I was going to write up kind of a little statement of what happened. In the meantime, the captain that was involved and I had conversations and he wrote up his part of it. So it kind of saved me a little bit of a hassle. So I'd just like to read a statement.
Absolutely.
So I humbly request that the following individuals be commended for their life-saving actions performed in the line of duty. Firefighter EMT Scott Semenchuk, Ambulance 2, Clinton. Firefighter EMT Joe Lemansky IV, Ambulance 2, Clinton. Firefighter EMT Richard Baker, Engine 6, Clinton. Firefighter EMT Michael T. Sislak, Engine 6, Clinton. Firefighter Paramedic Aaron Cullinane, Sterling Fire Department, Medic 28. Firefighter EMT Sarah Pisconi, Sterling Fire Department, Medic 28. Not on this list because he wrote the letter is Captain P.J. Chamberlain, the officer in charge of that call. I feel he should be on this list. He's going to disagree with me. That being said, I'll deal with it. On August 27th, around 1:20 in the afternoon, Ambulance 2 and Engine 6, as well as Medic 28 from Sterling Fire, were dispatched to the 200 block of Main Street for an 8-year-old boy who was bleeding heavily and in and out of consciousness. It was not known until after the young boy got into a new set of kitchen knives and accidentally sliced his wrist attempting to open a can. Upon making entry to the apartment, Firefighter EMT Scott Semenchuk and Firefighter EMT Joseph Lemansky found a young boy unconscious lying in a pool of blood that was spread across 2 rooms of the residence. Firefighter EMT Semenchuk and Lemansky found a laceration to the boy's left wrist and immediately applied pressure dressing to control any further blood loss, as the young boy had already lost a critical amount of blood already. While on scene and understanding the severity of the incident, Lifelight was immediately contacted to land at Clinton Hospital rather than risk ground transport to Worcester. The guise of that is, we need blood. We need blood now, so we're going to get this little young man blood. Just for the record, from the door of the fire department to the residence, 1 turn, out Main Street, half of a mile. This transpired in half a mile. Sterling firefighter paramedic Aaron Cullinane, with her advanced training and expertise, was able to drill an IO into this boy's shin to administer much needed fluids, as his veins had fully collapsed from so much blood loss. An IO is an interosseous vascular access. A specialized hollow bore needle is drilled through the cortex of the bone into the medullary space. Basically, they're going into the middle of your leg because this little man's, he's bled out. So the only way to get an access port is to drill his leg. Sterling firefighter EMT Sarah Pisconi provided assistance to firefighter paramedic Cullinane, seamlessly setting up with the tools needed to save the life of this young boy. Firefighter EMT Michael T. Sislak and Richard Baker also provided life-saving assistance as part of Engine 6 crew. Updates were requested and received throughout the night on the patient's condition. He suffered a severed artery and multiple tendon lacerations. We were happy to report, thanks to the quick response where seconds meant life and death, the boy has made a remarkable recovery. He was discharged from the hospital in a couple of days. The crew working was able to visit him at home, and on their next shift and even drove him to his first day of school 4 days after the incident. So they went up and gave him a ride in a fire truck. This kid is lucky to be alive. It is never the wishes of firefighter EMTs to be recognized for what we would say is just doing our job, but the circumstances and positive outcome achieved due to the exemplary efforts of these individuals who work heroically as a team deserves to be recognized and commended. I am proud and honored to work and serve with these men and women. PJ signed it, but now I'm signing it because I added him to the top. So I just kind of just to let you know that, you know, these guys should be recognized in some fashion. There's a little boy alive today because, you know, number one, he lived within a half mile of the department. I don't think he'd be alive if he was farther away, but these people did a great job, and the department did a great job too. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
Mr. Chair, I know in the past we attempted starting like a recognition program. I think the first group we did it with was when we finished the downtown renovations. I think we kind of lost focus on it a little bit. I think it would be a good idea to, you know, in any department that acts in an exemplary fashion, even if it is in their job description, I think should be recognized. So, I mean, I don't know if we have to have a vote on it or we can have a discussion offline, but I think we should put some sort of a recognition ceremony together and for the amazing work that they did, but also I think it's something we should keep on the radar. And, you know, every couple times a year, there are some tremendous stories that come out from town employees in the line of duty, and I don't know if any of them are going to top this, but I think it would be worth doing some sort of a recognition ceremony.
I agree.
Concur.
Full agreement. So do we want to connect offline and then we can set something up?
Sure, yeah, I think we would have templates for any certificates that we've done in the past, but maybe just determine if you wanted to do something quarterly or, you know, as they come up, and, you know, we can get the word out to departments and kind of do a, you know, a regular type of ongoing program. So.
Yeah, I would say as they come up.
Yeah.
Right, I think that would be work best.
Yeah.
Yeah, we just let the departments make them aware that, you know, we're doing this, and if there's something that an employee has done like recently or that happens in the future that they'd like recognition, just to kind of submit and the board can consider it, yeah.
Sure, bring forward to the board at a meeting, yeah. Good, absolutely, thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Next item on the agenda, Marie Letarte, if you'd like to come to the table.
Marie Letarte, Library Director, and I always find myself following. Hey, adoption, thank you, this is awesome. I'm talking about the library, which is also awesome, but not quite the same way. I just want to give you a sort of an update of the progress of the town's grant for the Massachusetts Public Library Construction Program. My trustee subcommittee, of which Angela is part of that, looked at 2 sites because, as you are aware, or maybe you're not, I don't remember, we have to show up with 2 sites. One can certainly be the current site, but we have to come up with an alternate site just in case, or just because that's part of the requirements of the grant. And we looked at 239 Chestnut Street and 150 School Street. And I know that we had talked about possibly if the board thought of something in November, you might come up with another alternate site. There's also been thought of, you know, is it a shared building? Is it a new building? Is it a renovation? Is it a tear down? The grant would cover demolition. It does cover purchase and sale. We just have to show that that's happening. It actually, anything purchased within 3 years of the grant could be reimbursed. And if it is a shared building, then the percentage that's eligible is only the part that's the library would be in. I don't know if you have any other questions. We're able to use a lot of the feedback from our strategic plan last year, because a lot of the responses had to do with the building and the state of the building and how much people want a new building or renovated or you know, the issues with the building. So we're able to use a lot of that data from last year. So I don't know if you have any questions, or, you know, I'll just come back periodically. I don't really have anything super exciting to sit, but I don't know if you have any other in the back of your head. Oh, those two sites, is there another one?
Any questions?
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I do.
You look like you have a question.
As you go through this process, I mean, what's the time frame that you'll know if, in fact, you make that list for the funding, or?
So the grant is due in May, and then they decide.
Now, excuse me, just, I don't want to interrupt you, but
That's okay.
is that with the two sites? You have to submit both of the
We have to
sites?
submit both of them.
Okay.
We do not have to choose. So what happens in May, we submit it, Clinton submits it, I should say, and then in October or November, the Board of Library Commissioners votes on the, last I heard, there were 25 libraries that submitted a letter of intent, and they expect to fund 10. So still better odds than winning the lottery, but, you know, there's no guarantee. And then what happens is that we get the first part of the grant that the town already voted on in June, and that would be the planning and design, where that's where when the building committee would get involved, you do an RFP, you hire an architect, blah, blah, blah. And they come up with two sort of schematics. This is if we did this site, this is if we did a renovation of the current building, and I have a lot of input from the community on that. And then they go forward with whichever the community decides. Without a formal vote, it's more like input and lots of meetings. And then that's what they go forward with, developing a plan or a design, I guess would be the better answer.
Now, do you have like question and answer sessions with?
Oh, absolutely.
with the,
We would have that, yeah.
with the group that you're applying? Okay.
And you know what? I had these great invitations that I printed out and forgot, but December 6th is our final sort of anniversary party. It is actually the 120th anniversary of when the building was opened. So December 6th, 1903. And since the library was a town entity in 1875, it is the 150th anniversary year. So you are all invited. I will actually officially bring the invitations over to Mike, and he can sort of distribute them at will. But it's 5 to 7, so even if you do have a meeting, it doesn't interfere. And if you don't have a meeting, you can come by. So any other questions? No, I'm sure I'll come by again if you come up with another site that you think would be, oh, this would be a great library. Please let me know. All right.
Very good. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next item, community and economic development.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Would you like to begin with the LED signs? Sure. Okay. If you recall, gosh, about sometime over the summer, I came to you with a proposal for LED signs funded by ARPA, estimated a construction cost of about $80,000 to install 2 signs. Your board tentatively approved that, but requested I come back with a proposal in earnest, and that's what I'm with. That's why I'm before you today. I think included in your packet was a proposal from Cameron Brothers to actually install 3 signs. One at the middle and high school, one at the football in front of the fire station, and then a third one at the end of the triangle at the intersection of Mechanic and Chestnut Street, a smaller sign using a sign that was actually fabricated and donated to the town last year by our wayfinding consultant, Mark Futterman. So that would be a smaller one-sided sign. But we were effectively able to work through and get a proposal for $80,500 to install 3 signs. So that's why I'm coming to you today. If it meets with your approval, you've already reviewed and approved the design. If it meets with your approval, we'll commence the permitting. That has to happen. We'll nail things down with National Grid, and we'll see if we can get these. See how quickly we can get these signs in there.
So the three locations again were what?
At the driveway between the middle school and the high school, the one is just to the left of the tennis courts. What's called the football, the grassy area at the corner of Main and Church by the fire station.
Okay.
And then the third one would be where the existing Welcome to Clinton sign is, except further back by about 15 feet on the triangle at the intersection of Mechanic and Chestnut Street.
Okay.
These would be double-sided LED signs. Among the next steps would be a sit-down with the proposed vendor, along with Mike and presumably Steve Meyer. Presumably they'll be the people programming content on the signs to go over the controls and understand what their preferences are, and that they understand how the systems are controlled, and just move forward. So we haven't signed off on the actual screen spec, but we have a number in place that's a real number, a real proposal from a vendor. We haven't met with that vendor yet.
Mr. Chair,
Sure.
am I reading this right? There's two 38 by 75 and one 25 by 25?
Yeah, so the existing...
Where's the little one? So that's not very big, is it?
It should be bigger than 25. Maybe that's the standard size, because it's about a 38-inch clear on that, the sign that was donated.
Okay.
So I will double check that.
Where's that? So that would go where
That's
the
the one at the triangle.
Okay. Thank you.
I will double check that.
Great.
That one has to fit.
Yeah.
We'll build the frame around the...
Okay.
And if you're interested in seeing something similar, I noticed the last time I was coming through Hudson about 3 weeks ago, they recently installed one in front of the Armory that in terms of size is slightly larger than what we're proposing, but very similar in terms of concept.
And how did you arrive at this particular contractor?
I reached out to 3 separate vendors, and this is the only one who got back to us with a price. He's a fabricator, and we got him back a price of some fabrication, realized that we need somebody to act as a general contractor. I asked him if he would be willing to act as in the role of a general contractor in this project. And he said, yes, let me give you a proposal.
And did he have any references or anything, or has this individual done any work at any other municipalities that we could?
Well, he's done work in Clinton. He did,
Oh, yes.
Yeah, he did the work on our planters, and he did one other thing, and the seating platforms that were on Church Street last year.
But as far as LEDs, as far as electronics go?
Yes, he says he has, but I haven't checked references on it.
Yeah, I would just be curious what he's done in the past, or what they've done in the past, if it's a possibility.
No, he's received, he's acting as a general contractor, he's received quotes from electricians who have done these before, communicated with National Grid to understand what the metering requirements are.
Just, Mr. Chairman.
Sure.
Do you know, Phil, who did the Hudson?
I don't, but if I was to lay money, I would bet Gemini Signs, which is a large sign company in Hudson. But I don't know who did those.
So is this piece already manufactured, and this individual will just be putting it all together, or are they actually constructing?
They're constructing the sign. The signage is custom. So they'll be welding together 4x4 posts and perforated steel plates and installing raised PVC lettering and internal lighting. So it's a custom piece.
But the electronics
Oh,
themselves,
yes.
are those manufactured, or are these,
No.
how custom is this? Because, there's a sizable difference between doing streetscapes and doing electronic signage,
Yeah.
right?
No, the
So I'm trying to
signage, so
understand
the
where that
LEDs
is.
work that there are panels that I think are roughly 15 by 15, and this is the same technology that goes from this to the super screen at Gillette Stadium. They just multiply, and then it's the controllers that program what displays on each of these grids. So, like I said, we haven't met with that vendor yet, but we will. And it's my understanding, not having met them, is that they are a company that does this.
Okay. Any other questions?
One question, Phil. So is this going to be kind of like the sign that's at the Parks and Rec?
Yes, except a full color LED display, so it'll be a smoother display, full color.
Okay.
So yeah,
Yeah.
a similar idea.
I'm assuming that the actual size is going to be like, feasible, but I am kind of intrigued with Selectman Carrigan, who's looking at some of these dimensions in the quote. Is it just a typo, or because how big are these? Do you have the actual dimensions of how big these are going to be?
Well, the ones that are down at the fire station at the middle school are nominal 38 by 75, so that's nominally 3 feet by 6 feet. That's a pretty big sign.
Okay. And then the one 25 by 25. Okay.
Yeah, I will confirm that. That may have to do with the module dimensions. It may be, but I will confirm the size on that side.
All right.
I just have a quick question. Are they all programmed, do you have to program them, all three of them separately?
We'll find out more, but I know they're programmed remotely. I would assume you could program them differently.
Yeah, I just was curious because of the dimensions. If there's, one looks like a square, one looks like a rectangle. I just didn't know if it would be,
Well, 2 of them will be identical.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
the other one would be.
there's a bit of, graphic formatting that you have to undertake before you do that, but I'd love to learn on more, but if it's a matter of doing, say, on a PowerPoint slide, just adding the aspect ratio on the PowerPoint slide, you're good to go. So,
And who's the point person for the sign, TBD?
big pardon?
Like who controls the sign? Is it your office or?
No, it wouldn't be me. I had a brief conversation with both Mike as town administrator and Steve Meyer, the superintendent of schools. Presumably it would be their decision as to who would control the signs.
So are they town signs or school signs? They're both?
Yeah, we haven't, I think we were going to meet on it with Dr. Meyer and myself and Phil and kind of talk about it and see how it would be used and who would be, one making the changes and creating the messages. So, yeah, we haven't gotten to that point.
Yeah, they'd be municipal signs, and there'd probably be a lot of duplication of messaging. For instance, a message like first day of school would go on probably all 3 signs. I think I said this last time, a message like Friday Spirit Week, wear pajamas, probably would only go on 1. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's what I mean.
So we would have the ability, we can either have them all be the same, or we can have each one be different.
I'm almost certain. Like I said, we haven't met with the vendor, we haven't discussed the controls yet, but I guess I shouldn't answer that question prior to having that discussion, but prior to having that interview with the vendor.
I do, the dimensions, I definitely have reservations about. And just thinking, especially up at the school, where you're going to have vehicles that are traveling, whatever, 30 miles an hour, 3 by 6 does not seem very large as far as someone being able to see that sign off to a distance. I think at the intersection down by Church Street, it makes sense. But 3 feet by 6 feet on a screen does not seem, it just doesn't seem large. But I'm not the expert on that. I can just go based upon like the Parks and Rec sign. I don't know what the dimensions on that are, but
Appreciably smaller than 3 by 6. I mean,
I agree with you. And there's limitations on how much, and I understand that's a different, it has different technology. But yeah, I'd be interested to see, like, and even Clinton Savings Bank, they have their panel.
Yeah,
that's up there.
Also much smaller than 3 by 6.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think there is like, I think a formula for signage that is like a distance and space. And so I'm sure the sign company might be able to offer some additional information in terms of like what the suggested, like if you're on like a high-speed area, typically it's like bigger, but there is like some type of formula that sign companies often use to kind of give you, especially if it's like not electronic, if it's printed, like it should be like this size font, this size, so maybe they can provide some additional information to support that.
I can check.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I think it's a great idea.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to seeing it.
Yeah. I should say in all instances, I mean, we had a discussion as to whether to put any signage at the Triangle location, if only because that's a place where we don't necessarily want to distract drivers. But whether it's at the fire station, at a signalized intersection, where cars are coming in and out, or up at the high school, if cars are going any faster than 35, they shouldn't be distracted at all, quite frankly. You know, those are both zones where 30 miles an hour is the appropriate speed, thereabouts, something between 30 and 35. I can happily check. I can document, for comparison, I can document some signage around town. I can also go over to Hudson. Like I said, it felt like it was a little bit bigger, a little taller, but probably maybe not necessarily wider than the sign we're proposing. But I'll hop in my car tomorrow morning with the tape measure and see what their sign, what their sign dimensions are. Theirs is a very similar location in front of the Armory, so you're coming into the downtown, but cars are slowing as they approach. Theirs is also set farther away from the road than ours will be, behind a hedge, so it's a little bit more remote from the street.
Mr. Chair, so Phil, this vendor, Cameron Brothers, I mean, they do this all the time, right? They make.
They're steel fabricators. They do signage and steel assemblies all the time. So.
Right, so they have, I assume they have an idea of like how big they have to be on where they're going, right?
Yeah, I gave them the spec, which is what I showed you last time.
Okay.
And honestly, it was based on my design understanding.
And you said the sign at the Parks and Rec is smaller than the 38 by 75?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. And so we need to approve this quote?
If it's your pleasure,
Yeah.
I'd like to get things rolling. We still have to go through permitting with the planning board.
Okay.
If you want to approve it provisionally, and then we'll come back with more information on the specs, if that's useful. But yeah, I'd like to commence work. Nothing will probably be fabricated until we go through the planning board first Tuesday of next month.
Yeah, I think if you can come back with, I'm on board with approving the request tonight, and then if we can come back with the specs for a final review, then I would be on board with that.
Okay.
If the board feels the same way.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we approve the attached quote from Cameron Brothers Artisan Fabrication for three community information signs provided by our Director of Economic Development.
Second.
Any discussion or questions? There being none, all in favor? Aye. Very good.
And to that concern about, like I said, they're fabricators, they make things. The idea is that there's basically a plug-and-play electric module that goes with that. But we'll, in the course of our discussions, we'll also ensure that everything is warranted and understand if there's anything like a maintenance contract that needs to be signed and what that entails. But yeah, I have utmost confidence in their ability to make a sign as was described in the design you approved. Okay.
And next item, the Strand ARPA Committee membership update.
Okay, well, the committee, the formation of the committee was approved by your board in June. As you may know, the property is the Strand building, the Wachusett block, is in the process of being transferred from joint ownership to sole ownership. And with conversations with the owner as recently as last week, effectively the owner's not in a position to really do anything, even have a discussion beyond a simple lease until he has sole possession of the property. And so I have not yet appointed the Strand Committee. I thought to hold off until we had some certainty and that our primary dancing partner in this relationship could speak and act upon words. So I haven't formed that committee yet. You may remember that committee includes 2 members of the Board of Selectmen, 2 members of the community, 2 people with relevant professional experience, and myself. So that, I've given indication. So the owner, I spoke with him last week. He's 2/3 of the way to obtaining possession, being able to effect the transaction to his ownership. But as soon as he's ready to go, I propose we form the committee at that point so that we can have conversations in earnest with the owner at that time.
Mr. Chair, so who owned it before? I'm confused. Why were you talking to him if he didn't own it?
Well, he owned part of it.
Part of it.
So is this unexpected?
No,
Okay.
no.
So was any of that premature?
Anyone?
What were you doing with him?
No, I wouldn't say it was premature. I would say that, but I would say that the entity that owns the facility is not in a position to.
So we're talking about the Strand owners before?
The Strand-
Not the building owners?
No, the building. Our discussion has been primarily with, in fact, almost exclusively with the building owner.
Right.
Because he's really, he's the owner that will control the asset moving forward. The property was in a trust, and he's in the process of conveying properties within the trust so that the Strand building, the Wachusett block, can be conveyed out of joint ownership into sole ownership.
And it's his intention to keep it?
At this point, yes.
Mr. Chair, and open this up to the rest of the board. I don't see the harm in forming this committee. I mean, if the worst thing that happens, if something goes sideways with the ownership and then this ARPA agreement that we came to falls through, we can just as easily disband the committee. But I don't see no offense, Phil, I just don't see the purpose in waiting. So I mean, I don't know if it takes a motion or what. I would ask the town administrator to just.
I don't think it takes a motion. If you say from the committee now, I'll go out and advertise for the public participation. Honestly, my thinking, Ed, was along the lines of momentum. I didn't want to have a big kickoff meeting and then sit there on our hands waiting for something to happen.
Well, there's still, in anticipation of if everything goes okay, we still have guidelines we have to come up with that don't exist right now. So, I mean, there's still work that can be done in parallel. I mean, I, for one, wouldn't mind, if the worst that happens is we meet a couple times and then something goes weird and we disband the committee, I don't see a problem, but we're up against the clock because we only have until the end of next year to spend the money. And I think if that money isn't allocated to Strand renovations by the summertime, this board's going to start getting real antsy about wanting to reallocate it. So we're really up against it. So I don't want to wait for the Strand to get their ducks in a row, then have to wait another month and a half for us to get the committee going. I'd rather just get the committee going now.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, when you're saying that you're 2/3 of the way there with him, I know with trust, and I know, I mean, I have heard some that, this is, he's dealing with other family members, anything can really happen. I mean, so we don't know, but I mean, is this committee now you're talking about meeting with the party that's owns that building, or is it just as a committee themselves with talking about strategy, or what are you talking about?
Well, based on the discussions that have been had to date, I think it may be, if we're lucky, the committee will be in a reactive position, that there will be a proposal before the committee with an interested party. That's hopeful. That's not far-fetched. People have been talking, but these conversations are ready for prime time, and talk sometimes is cheap. So I think it could be that the committee is reactive and that the role of the committee will be to react to a proposal. It could be also on the other side that the committee can basically do some groundwork in anticipation of a proposal, in which case we might want to start talking. But based on the conversation we've had, if we're lucky, the committee will be reacting. Mind you, we have people who are on the committee, particularly people with expertise in similar industries. They're there to react, quite frankly, to be able to vet a proposal that might come and understand its soundness. So it'll be kind of both, Mayor Rose. It'll be both communication directly with the principal stakeholder, but it also potentially could be kind of formulating what the town's guidelines are to basically ensure that the money is a prudent use of public funds.
So legally we can do that, even though all of the legal aspects of the trust are not resolved?
We can have those conversations internally, but again, it's premature to have those discussions with the ownership entity.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So
Yeah.
you can't until he's resolved.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Well, because this is a relatively new development, because originally when we were meeting with the the owner of the Strand, I at least wasn't aware that this was in the works. So I don't know why we wouldn't just move forward as we were planning to anyway, assuming that the status of that building just is now what it was then when we decided to put this committee together. And then if something changes, then the committee can try to react to that. But
I'll advertise this Friday for citizen participation on the committee. When we hear that back, I'll come back to you as soon as we have viable candidates, and request that you confirm appointment to the Strand Subcommittee, and we'll start meeting right away. If these things that maybe it would be time, maybe those discussions would be better had as to what a committee could do could be had internally with the committee, rather than kind of in the abstract now.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I had voiced that I would like to be on that committee.
Absolutely, yeah. You and Ed, absolutely right, so there's three. And so when the owner had come in not too long ago, it was clear he was eager to work with the town
Yes.
on making this happen, and it sounded like the arrangement of the property at that time was kind of a hurdle, because there was going to be money invested into a building that, there wasn't a lot of flexibility on ensuring that the funds, this isn't starting off the right way. So
No,
let
I
me-
know
there was-
like
there
it
was
could be
con-
matched or something. We were,
But what I mean is, like, because with it being in a trust, he was kind of handcuffed a little bit, right?
Exactly.
So now it sounds like where this is going to be moving, if he's going to move into being the sole owner, it gives him more flexibility, which then I would think would benefit the purpose of the subcommittee, the endeavor of trying to get the Strand revitalized.
Without disclosing or describing conversations that are really not ready for prime time, I can assure you that the owner and I have been in regular contact
Yeah.
all summer long, and have been discussing kind of the parameters or outlines of moving forward in an optimal basis relative to ownership,
That's fair.
disposition of, we haven't had those discussions, but I could not represent them in a public forum.
No, that's
unexpected.
not looking for that, but it's just the idea, if it does get to that point where it's moving, then that sounds like a pretty positive step compared to what kind of the framework that you're going to have to operate within initially, or that the owner was going to have to operate initially as far as the Strand.
The present one is not tenable, according to by the owner's description, but he is taking steps
Yeah.
to change the status quo.
And you have a valid point though, Phil, like, there will be only so much that we'll be able to discuss while this is in flux, but I just think, I hope you don't, I just think if we just have the committee formed, we can meet once and then decide, well, there's nothing more that we can talk about right now until that gets resolved, but at least when it does get resolved, we have the committee already formed, so we can just just go right into it. Okay, yeah.
So, which is to say that this is the first time we've talked about it since June, and based on this conversation, I'll advertise right away and
Okay.
see how soon we can prudently bring volunteers to your board for approval of the subcommittee's composition.
So I was under the understanding that you were creating the board, so why would the select board need to approve appointments?
I think we can review the minutes, but it was my understanding at the last meeting, what we approved was we gave Phil the.
Correct.
He has the say to make the committee.
Absolutely right. So right now you have 2 select board members on it, yourself, and then whoever,
So I have to-
however you go about deciding who's going to be on it, then.
It sounds like I have to recruit probably one person with similar experience. Based on conversations that were held last week, it seems like we have a candidate who's volunteered who has similar experience. And so one additional person, and then two people from the public, and the only supportive way to do that is to put an ad in the paper and online, just letting people know that we're soliciting interested persons.
Perfect.
Okay.
Yeah, so right here you have 2 resident representatives appointed by the select board, so I would
So you're
strike
delegating
that and it's appointed by.
Okay, great. So the ad will be in not this Friday's item, but next Friday's item.
Perfect.
I'm just one thing. I mean, I would hope that one would have committee member would have a good financial background.
Yeah, and
You know,
that's.
I think that's essential.
Yes, that's
Absolutely essential.
exactly, yes. And that's why I actually reserved 2 seats for people with, I think there is mention of that in the
Yeah, I
memo.
think it's-
Yeah, we're going to want people who
Yeah.
know what they're looking at when they're looking at a pro forma.
Agreed.
Okay.
Thank you so much. All right, next item on the agenda, American Rescue Plan Act recommendations. The first item will be the Council on Aging Transportation Services. If you'd like to come up to the table, please, and
Good evening.
so you have to just wait till you get to the table because the microphones
Good
are...
evening.
Mark will yell at you.
Thank you for inviting us back. As you know, I'm Debbie, the director at the Council on Aging. Sherry's the assistant director, but Sherry's also the transportation supervisor. So she has a lot of the information regarding the purchasing of a handicap accessible van.
What do you want to know?
Anything. There's nothing in our packet, so we have no information at all.
I don't really have a packet. It was just, from my understanding, you just wanted to know, like, quotes for,
Well, Mr. Chairman, quotes, but I still think a lot of this is, I think we need to know if there's state agencies out there that, you know, that the town could apply for vehicles and, you know, things of that nature, because this ARPA money is only one-time money.
Right.
So if you establish that you're going to have this vehicle, say, for $100,000, there may come a time that the town doesn't have $100,000 available. So I think it's important that there, you know, every resource, state resource is reached out to see if there is some type of funding, or if there's a pool of vehicles that the town could take from. I think
so I have looked into grants for, like, wheelchair accessibility, which is kind of what we need. Unfortunately, we don't fit criteria because we don't bus children. So, I mean, we could, well, actually, not really. So with WRTA, under our contract, we have to open up transportation services to all ages, but only if they're disabled under the age of 60. Anybody over 60, we have to transport. If we owned our own vehicle, we wouldn't have to do that, I guess. We wouldn't be bound by that contract. It would be a town vehicle. So
And we'd also be able to go to locations that we can't go now. I just got a call today, somebody from Harvard, their doctor's in Harvard.
right, but we're talking about
Yeah.
grants and getting
Right.
grants.
Right.
So we don't meet any of the criteria for them. So right now, the only one that is available, which I have already started the application process, is through MassDOT. They do have one. It's 20% match. They would pick up 80% of the bill, and they only have, the vehicles are already picked out. We wouldn't have a choice in the vehicle that we got. The vehicle we would be looking for would be their Type A vehicle. The total cost for this vehicle is $78,604. They would pick up $62,883.20, and then we would have to have a 20% match of $15,720. So I'm kind of going to be putting all our eggs in this basket because it's the only one that I can apply for. Hopefully we get it. I don't know that we will, but I hope that we do. But then we would be looking to you for that 20% match of 15,000+.
And I always have to have a plan B. And like I said, the chances of us getting the grant aren't huge. And I need to know that we still can accommodate our seniors to their medical appointments where they need to go. Which, like I said, brings us back to the point where if we do not get the Mass DOT grant, we're still going to need a vehicle, whether it's a decommissioned cruiser or something like that, because we can always put the wheelchair in the back of the trunk.
All right, so
Yeah. This is wish list.
No, I understand that, right? So the confusion that I'm seeing that I have right now is, so my understanding was that the vehicle request for an SUV, anything for transportation, right? This grant is would be in addition to that. Am I wrong?
That would be ideal. If we were able to get a vehicle, a decommissioned vehicle, correct.
Wait, what is that, an issue? So they need one,
I'm
they need a
confused.
van.
I thought we were going to get a list of like how much the vehicle was going to cost, what we're going to get, like, I thought we were going to get something.
Well, the
Like,
Mass DOT, Sherry had looked it up, it's $105,000 for the grant to get that vehicle.
For what kind of vehicle?
For
So
the
it's
van.
this is a minivan?
I guess this is what I was looking for.
I didn't make you a packet, I'm sorry.
So.
Sherry had today off, just so,
We met 2 weeks ago.
yeah, I know.
So after we met last meeting,
I can't, no, not right now.
after we met last meeting, I had forwarded a grant.
Yep, which
to
I think is a
Deb,
great idea.
Right? So from my understanding is that's what you're referring to right now is that the Mass DOT grant or the Mass, I can't remember, but I thought that was kind of like
A drain.
aside to the request they just put in for.
So,
It very well
Sean,
might be. I don't know.
Mr. Kerrigan, just to kind of clarify, so my original request was through the town. I requested years ago for an SUV or vehicle. That vehicle was given to the facilities department for their use. So we requested the next vehicle that we could use for medical, and that was where it came up, where it was going to the Board of Health. So we only requested a vehicle. It was when I came to this meeting, it was like, well, what about buying a van? Which I was like, absolutely, if that's a possibility, that would be wonderful. And then Matt sent us a thing for the DOT, which we have applied for this grant previously for different reasons. And we have gotten 2 from them before, but we did not get the last one that we requested. So like I said, I'm not putting my eggs all in this basket. If this was to happen and Sherry was able to get this vehicle, it would be wonderful. But as a realist, I just need a car.
Sure, I understand. I don't want to help if I can. I
Yeah.
just don't have any more information than I did 2 weeks ago. So
So
I'm not
so
any further
we talked
away.
to, Angela has
Am I-
sent us
I'm not
some
crazy, right?
information. Through the state procurement, they really have mainly trucks and things like that. So we weren't really able to get, the only quote I was able to get was a company in Utah for a van for $75,000. So we weren't having a lot of luck over the last 2 weeks gathering this information.
If you want to go to a car or an SUV,
Right.
that's a different story.
Right.
You did not,
Right, but we weren't looking at a car SUV because our request was to get one from the town. So do you want us to find a regular car at a dealership, or you have to go? See, this is our first time doing this. I mean, I don't know what the rules and regs are for this.
Mr. Chair.
Just one question. Sherry, when you're saying you're applying to the MassDOT, okay? What's the time frame? What requirements do you have in this application? I mean, is it something that like has to be done immediately and then there's a time frame? Like, I mean, when are these awarded, or are they on a
Right, so the application opens November 28th. On that day, I have to take a application training class. I can't apply for the grant without it. Once that's done, then I can apply online for the grant. I will have to submit budgets and numbers of why we would need it and all that fun
Sure,
stuff.
that makes sense.
Anybody
Yeah,
that's
sure.
applied for a grant, you know. Then they award in January, I believe, of '24. And if we get it, they deliver in June of '25. So we have money to keep us going with delivery right now until June. That's a grant. We have to use the money by June. We do have a backup 30,000 that we don't have a time limit on, thank goodness, that we got from the Home Foundation in the amount of another 30,000. Once that runs out, then we don't have any, and I can't apply for delivery grant again because I've now been awarded it twice. So,
Okay, but,
Oh, yeah.
so I just want to follow through on this.
Yeah.
So November 28th is the deadline to apply for the grant this year?
it's not the deadline, December, it opens on the 28th.
Okay.
The deadline is December.
December, and then the awards are in January?
Correct.
Okay, so you're going to know by January whether you've been successful or
Yes.
not for your application?
Yes.
Okay. I mean, I just don't think there's, I mean, we're already in October. It just seems to me that, you know, we could wait until we find out whether we, I mean, that's my opinion. What the board decides, I'm just saying.
I agree wholeheartedly. I was looking at it from the standpoint of, if you find out in January that you're going to receive the vehicle in June of 25,
Yes.
then still be able to use ARPA funds to purchase a COA vehicle, okay? And then depending on the usage, if you find that, you know, you need the van when the van comes in, then we could always repurpose the vehicle that they received initially, right? Not that the CO needs 2 vehicles per se, but, you know, if the van's received, then, you know, maybe that could be become shared. You know, that was kind of my understanding, well, what I was kind of viewing as ideal.
Yeah.
Because I don't think you were asking to buy a van through the ARPA funds, correct? You were
No.
just looking for any vehicle.
Right.
So if it's, you know, if they can get an SUV of some sort, and then you have that for the next year and change, and then if a van comes and the car, you know, the SUV seems to be sitting, then repurpose it.
Well,
you know.
because I just think, it's, if you start supplying vehicles and not applying for vehicles that are potentially you could get through the state, well, the state's not ever going to give you anything, because they're going to let the community do the buying. That's just the nature of government. So, I mean, I just think that, you know, it's not a huge time frame here. You're going to know
I
by
agree.
January. I mean, that's only my opinion.
No, and I'm not disagreeing with you one bit. I'm just saying from the standpoint of, if they do get the van, then we have to fill that gap of the year and a half until the van comes in, right? So then how are we going to fill that? So
Well, you said you had the 30/30, right? You still have,
Yeah, we do. So we can still use the livery. We will still have funds coming in to use the livery. I believe we may only have at the end of that in 25, maybe February to June, that we may not have
So there'd
funds,
be-
depending on how much we use.
yeah,
But also
so
bear
even
in mind-
24, they're covered, so.
yes, agreed.
Just
Okay.
bear in mind that right now, the delivery grants that we have, the money that we're using, is only for life-sustaining treatments and things like that. So we're not using it for, your dad needs to go to Harvard. We
Yeah.
don't use it for that, so he's still trying to find his own ride.
Understood. Okay.
So this is only being used right now for basically life-sustaining treatments.
Mr. Chair, so this isn't like van or nothing, right? You guys would, so the van is like ideal, you'd get
Yes.
like, right,
Yes.
that's the dream.
That's
But
the 10.
if you guys did get like an SUV or something, you would still get a lot of value out of it, right?
If we had a Prius, we would be happy.
Exactly,
Okay?
right.
I mean, it's
A
just.
Pinto. We'd be happy with a Pinto.
There you
So
go.
for the time being now, I mean, why don't we just focus on that?
Yeah.
And then we can try to put together some sort of a reaction plan. If you guys do qualify for that program, we can try to revisit, because if the state, so you said we'd essentially be getting like a $80,000 van and the town would only have to put in like $15,000 or $20,000?
Yeah, I believe it was 15.8.
So I think if we qualify for that, we'd be foolish not to supply the money to get the van. But we don't, like you said, there's no guarantee. It's probably a long shot. So, I mean, just my recommendation, why don't we just focus on what we know we can provide that will improve services for the elderly?
Right.
And if we do qualify for that grant, I think we can revisit and see if we can find the money. And then we can have discussion about, then what do we do with that car? You know, do we sell it and use that money towards the van? Does another town department utilize it? I don't know. I think we can figure out, you know, what to do with that. But I think for the immediate needs, I just don't want to lose focus. Like, you guys would find value out of getting any kind of a car that would help
Correct.
assisting the elderly get to doctor's appointments or, you know, whatever. And like you said, even we do have some grant in the Clinton, the livery service that we use, but I believe in a conversation with you, you made mention that like if you had the car, you could expand those services now. So it wouldn't just be.
We could go to Harvard, we could go to like that Harvard appointment.
Okay.
Or I have one lady that I have to keep turning down, and it's awful, I feel terrible, she's in her 90s, but her doctor's in Waltham.
So what, I mean, Angela,
Can't go all the way to Waltham.
so for some of the other departments, you've been working with them on speccing out the vehicle, right?
Yeah, but the van is a different.
Totally different, I
animal.
get that. But like why don't we, between now and the next meeting, and anyone else pipe up if you want to do something different, but between now and our next meeting, why don't you guys work with Angela on just speccing out a normal, like an
Yeah.
SUV, something that, and then come to us with some numbers, and we can try to digest that and deal with that first, and then if the good news, if we do qualify for that, we'll kind of like deal with that at that time.
Okay.
Yeah, and just so everyone knows, a lot of the vehicles that are on the bid list right now are in stock, and you have to act quick. You can't let them sit there, because it's like whoever, they could be giving the same quote to somebody else. You know,
Okay.
a lot of people are asking for quotes, and if you wait too long, it might not be available, so.
Okay,
The only thing I can guarantee you is the need is there.
right.
Like I said, we just need to, like I said, we were, originally just hoping to get an old cruiser.
Sure.
Just so we could put people in the car and bring them to an appointment.
And I think, I don't want to speak for the board, I just think we need some numbers. We need to approve something, so if we don't
Yeah.
have anything to approve, we can't approve it.
We'll work with Angela this
Okay.
week and get those to you, and we'll have them for your next meeting.
Okay,
Very good.
thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Next item, under the same next sub-item, Veterans Office vehicle requests.
So we do have a quote for that one.
It's one trip.
I didn't know if we,
So that one, we have a quote for $33,000 for a Chevy Equinox that's in stock. Ford is not making any more Escapes. That was kind of what I was trying to look for, but they're not making them anymore, well, at least for the next year. So this is kind of similar. And I just wanted to also mention, because I did provide you with the energy efficiency guidelines from DOER for green communities. Previously, I said it had to be hybrid or electric, but it can also meet the criteria based on the miles per gallon, if you're in the certain range, and these vehicles would.
so these would be non-hybrid?
Right. They don't have any hybrids.
Yep.
Mr. Chair?
Sure.
Angela, just one thing too, because can we just make sure that any of these vehicle requests are like going through you, that you're like viewing them? Like
Yeah,
Okay.
I've been working with everybody on.
Okay,
yeah.
that's all I want to make sure. I just don't
Yes.
want like everyone,
Well, and I also didn't want three different people calling the dealer either.
Exactly.
So,
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, let me, if you would, on Ted's point, after the last meeting, I went to Angela and I asked her for the vendor list, and she said to me, if it was okay with her, we worked it out, she just handled it. So
Yeah.
I had, I told her, she said, what kind do you want? And then I don't know how many conversations we had, 5-minute conversation, she kind of told me, so I wasn't even going to come tonight.
Right.
She had it all, but I mean, yeah, that's what happens. It all went through that, which I appreciate the help, because that's.
So let me ask then, the COA just made their, that was their request. Couldn't we,
well, up until 2 days ago, we were talking about a van. So
Yeah.
we were trying to find a van, and the only one that we could find that had the lift in it was the one she found out in Utah, but that's not on a state bid list, so I don't think we'd even be able to purchase that. So, I mean, I can call these people again and ask for either a vehicle or an SUV.
Yeah.
And see what they have in stock.
right, so the initial request was for any vehicle, and then when Deb came in, then I had asked about a van with a ramp, which she said that would be the wish list item. So in the meantime, that grant shows up. So I would think, my understanding was this is still on the table, that, that she could still use an SUV, and then if that grant comes through, then it's
Yeah, and if
a
you
bonus.
need, I think if you had the SUV or a vehicle, a car, if you had someone that needed a lift, then you could still call that service, but the rest of the,
Right.
time, you're just using the vehicle.
So would it be,
So it'd probably be similar in price, I would, but again, we have to see what they have in stock.
so then, so with the three, so hypothetically speaking, if we approved the Council on Aging, the Veterans Office, and with the Board of Health, would they all be the same 3 vehicles, like the same type of vehicles?
So the Board of Health, had already approved, so we did find a Ford Escape, and it was similar price, 33.
So the only thing, my only thought behind that is keeping uniformity between the vehicles, right? And right now, we're not having very much luck with the Ford that the police department has.
Right.
Right? So if these approvals came about, I mean, could the Board of Health use a Chevy Equinox, or?
Well, we were already working with them on the Ford Escape, so this is what they have in stock. So what's happening in the auto industry right now is kind of crazy. Like, they won't quote you a build vehicle because they could say if they're going to build the vehicle, they don't know when it actually gets to the production line, and when it gets to the production line, it might be $35,000 or $40,000.
All right.
So these are vehicles, the ones that the Board of Health and this one tonight are ones that are in stock, and we'd have to act soon.
Okay, so,
Yeah.
so what I'm wondering is, why can't the Board of Health also get a Chevy Equinox if that is what's kind of being suggested
Well, they
or
only had,
recommended?
I asked for a Ford Escape,
So you
and they
can't,
didn't have any more Ford Escapes, so they had this. I don't think they have 2 Chevy Equinox. I can try.
so
But
it's
we've
only,
already-
there's only one on, there's
Yes, that's what I'm saying, is they have very limited in-stock vehicles that you can order, that you don't have to wait for it to be built and wait for the price to come back.
I'm
Just
sorry,
think-
who is they?
The auto industry, I had one vendor that would not even give me anything. I
Okay,
mean,
so these are
it's-
vendors that work with municipalities to
Yes.
furnish vehicles?
Yes, yeah, otherwise, I don't know how you would put a vehicle out to bid. You're not gonna get anyone to bid on it because they're already on state bid list, so they're not gonna take your bid for a 4-door car that's,
No, I'm just trying to understand
Yeah.
the process because I'm not familiar.
and I'm no car expert, I'll just say
Yeah.
that.
And now we're kind of, we started with like one for the Board of Health, now we're adding to it, so I'm trying to
Well,
understand this.
To me, the Board of Health, we acted on that a month ago. This is something that's been ongoing with them. I mean, I don't think you
Yeah,
should be
we've already-
tying it in with anything else that's going on tonight.
well, I'm just saying from the purpose of maintenance, if you have, if you have 3 different vehicles, 3 different manufacturers, to me, that's just, that's inefficient. I would think that if in the situation where if you're buying, 2 or 3 vehicles, you purchase the same vehicle, it goes to the same dealership, it gets the same, the same
Yeah, they don't
maintenance.
have the same vehicles, though.
No, well, that's
Yeah.
what I'm understanding, because if you look at, the DPW and facilities, every vehicle they've bought have all essentially been F-350s or F-550s. It's the same truck. So then you have a town mechanic who is now stocking the same supplies versus,
So we tried another vendor, and he had no Fords. I said, can I order one? He's like, they're not making them. I said, is there anything similar? There was nothing.
so the vehicle the Board of Health is buying, they're not even manufacturing that vehicle anymore, like the Ford?
They said for a year,
For a
they're
year.
not. So whether, I don't know, what happens in a year from now.
Understood. All right, so,
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we approve the vehicle request from the Veterans Department for the vehicle so specified by the Assistant Town Administrator.
I'll second.
any discussion? There being none, all in favor? Aye. Very good.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Drive
Thank
carefully.
you.
Thanks.
All right, now I understand the list. I get it. And I'm thinking to myself like, hey, we have Chevy Equinoxes in stock here. You know, oh, we'll take 3 of them. You know,
Yeah,
I get that.
I mean,
It's
there's a
very
strike going, I don't know if the
limited, yes.
strike's affecting it, or it just, I know it's been hard for other towns to get vehicles.
I guess the only other thing I want to note in terms of like ARPA funds is like the Veterans Officer vehicle, the Council on Aging vehicle, like they were not part of the original ARPA task force recommendations. So those funds, whatever, you know, that were presented and recommended by that task force, we're going to have to re-examine. Because these are over and above what we had originally kind of planned. Can be done, but just noting that.
And there was a small surplus. Yeah, there was a small surplus. Yeah, I agree with you. Next item, employee hazard duty pay. Mr. Deval had just provided a hazard pay criteria proposal that he had handed out.
You want to start with that?
Yeah, you can
Okay.
kick it off.
So we just talked at the last meeting about coming up with a criteria to kind of guide us. So this is just a proposal. We can use it, we can tweak it, we can crumple it up and throw it in the trash, but I just wanted to have a starting point. So what I had for a proposal is relatively simple. Just says, any department who, in the line of duty, consistently placed themselves in situations that were in contradiction of the CDC's COVID-19 social distancing, masking, or social gathering recommendations. So that's the criteria proposed. And as a sidebar, just as a rule of thumb, as most of you are aware, the teachers were not given hazard pay. Now, I understand that the school committee is its own autonomous board, but I would like to try to stay consistent in the town. So I would just, as we're having these discussions about different boards and different employees that are requesting hazard pay, I would just ask that the board use the teachers' exposures to COVID as kind of a baseline to be able to rationalize like why that department, like just in the back of your head, just think, was that department putting themselves in more risk than a teacher was? And if you can argue that they were putting themselves in more risk, I would say they would be a candidate for hazard pay. And if you can't justify that, then I would argue to stay consistent that they should not receive hazard pay. So this is just my proposal, and I will just leave it to the, open to the board for feedback, either, like I said, either to change it or to come up with something completely different.
Any thoughts?
Well, I'd like to give it some thought before. It's an interesting proposal.
I did try to go back. I think, Angela, you had pulled together some information about other towns that had, who had allocate. I know a lot of towns did not allocate hazard pay, but the ones who did, like how they.
So I updated that.
Okay.
So I remember when we first talked about that in October, I'm sorry, back in February, I presented the list, and then actually Chief Lutz had mentioned Rutland, so I did confirm that. So I did add that to the list. They had, the fire department was like 4,000, and then police and dispatch were 35, and then they went from there. So that was another town that was in this area. Most of the towns were fire and police, but there are some that did something different than that, but it's all,
I mean, I don't have it in front of me, but.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I
One did
don't-
2,000, one did 1,500.
yeah, I mean, everybody was different.
4 and 3,500, that sounds like a lot. I mean, was it just to those two departments?
So I can
could have to
read
get
it
numbers.
to you
Oh,
right now.
thanks. Was it in our
So
packet?
just what was on there already, so Ashby was 2,500 to the police department and fire department. Boylston was 1,400 to the fire department. Franklin was 3,000 to all departments, police, fire, DPW, municipal. Rutland was 4,000 to fire, 3,500 to police and dispatch, 2,000 DPW, and 1,500 to non-union. And then statewide, the average amount was 2,000, and various towns did a tier of rates, is what the most recent update is.
Now, I know the figure was 330,000,
Say that again?
the figure that we were given, for
Allocation.
allocation for it. What was that based on? Was that based on everyone getting something, or?
That was based on the ARPA task force when we had, when the committee had met, and it was just a rough number based on police, fire, DPW, cafeteria workers, and Board of Health. And it could have we had it broken down 2,000 per person, or some people got 3, some got 1. It was just a rough number, just a
So,
placeholder.
But that came, with those departments, that came to 330?
Yeah, it was just a placeholder, though. It wasn't an exact number.
Oh, it seems like a lot of money for just those departments. Say that again, it was police, fire, DPW.
Yep, Board of Health.
Board of Health
And the cafeteria workers, so that was about 60, 75, I'm sorry, it's about 80 people.
80 people? And that was giving them all the same amount? Or was that
We broke
broken
it down different ways,
Okay,
just to,
all right, okay.
Just to get a
I'm just trying to get an
Yeah.
idea of how you came up with that 330.
And from what I understand too, I think the state, the corrections had issued, I think, $2,000 to all state employees, I think was a number that I had just heard recently as well. Which I guess is in line with the state average, but, so, based upon your criteria where you had just mentioned, like, where the school department didn't issue hazard pay to teachers, are you saying that if we were to move forward with issuing hazard pay to all town employees, that the school department would not be part of that?
That's my understanding. I think the school committee was in charge of the ARPA funds and the hazard pay for their employees, so.
For the school?
Didn't they have the ability to give hazard pay to the teachers too?
I'm sure they could have, yeah.
Right, so, I would say that was the school's decision not to give hazard pay to the teachers, right, wrong, or indifferent. I'm not judging it,
Yeah.
I'm just saying like that was their decision. So I'm just saying in an attempt to try to stay consistent, I would be uncomfortable giving hazard pay to any department that was at less of a risk than a teacher was. That's just my opinion. And I would also be open if this came to it, if we wanted to do some sort of a tiered approach based on the risk that different departments faced. I would be open to that discussion as well, but I think I was pretty clear at the last meeting, like exactly my thoughts on handling how I think the hazard pay should be distributed. I don't think it's on tape. Everyone can see it again if they want to know. I don't think I have to revisit it, but that's just, like I said, that's just my opinion on how I think that the pay should be distributed.
I mean, at the end of the day, that school department, they're town employees, so if you're gonna start drawing lines in the sand based upon, who they report to, I think, obviously I'm gonna recuse myself from anything that's gonna involve that, aside from discussion. But, I mean, even looking at DPW versus facilities. Facilities was in a building with several hundred students every single day during the school day, and then they're gonna be, they wouldn't be considered. I don't.
Well,
But then the
and they-
DPW that had received compensation, full compensation, working 50%, over the course of the month.
Facilities did as well.
Facilities was on a shortened day, absolutely correct.
Right, so I mean, I think both DPW and facilities, if memory serves me correct, they were on a rotating schedule for approximately 2 months. So essentially, I don't know the exact numbers, but roundabout, they both received about a month's worth of pay for no work. So that was my argument at our last select board meeting, that even if you did argue that they were put into some kind of risk, I think you can argue that because they got paid for not working, then that's their hazard pay. And it was kind of a contentious conversation, so I don't want to, like, I'm not trying to drag it up again, but since you're asking, I'll just repeat I think that it's still consistent with, I think my logic is still consistent in how I'm rationalizing giving the payout.
Mr. Chairman, I just would say, like, I would have to agree with Ed on the school. They have an elected board, school committee, and I think that was in their jurisdiction, and I don't think that we should really get into the conversation. I think we should keep it to the government side of it, as opposed to, integrating the school side of it. I think that's where we should keep our conversation, is on the government end of it.
Does that include cafeteria workers?
They're outside of the schools.
I don't think they're in there, they're not included in any of their contracts or anything like that. It's my knowledge anyway, Sean.
That's my understanding as well.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That they're technically, I was surprised, but they're technically town employees. They're not under the.
Yeah, because like in the summertime, they have to file for unemployment and stuff like that, so they're not, unless it's changed, I don't know. Ed, you were on the school committee, but I thought it was still the same.
Yeah, my understanding, and I didn't even know this when I was on the school committee, but since asking about this, giving out hazard pay, I did just learn that. I didn't know it at the time I was on the school board, that the cafeteria workers are their own, they're a separate kind of work group that falls under town employees, and they're outside of, their pay, and nothing has anything to do with the school's budget.
Right.
So if we're using this as maybe even just a tentative guideline just for discussion, like what groups would be, obviously the fire and the police department. Does the DPW and facilities still fall under this criteria? I guess I'm like just struggling with the fact that I don't know if I have like enough information to kind of A, make the decision of who gets it, and B, how much money still at this point.
Well, the eye-opener for me was at $330,000, we're only talking 80 people. That's 80 plus, you said, Angela?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Is that 80 people, is that 80 people of the groups that the task force designated as appropriate for?
Correct.
Okay.
When I look at like working conditions, there were essentially 4 departments that there was no modification to their job requirements, right? So if you look at police, fire, the cafeteria workers, and the Board of Health, those 4 groups still had to carry out their daily activities there was no change in their environment. And every other department had a change in their environment. So whether it was the 2 departments who modified the work schedule, or the town hall building where it was closed to the public, the library was closed, all of these other departments were able to amend the environment to try to reduce the risk. So to me, the 4 departments that were not able to do that, as I just mentioned, if we're going to consider any hazard pay, those are the 4 departments that I would be supportive of continuing the conversation on. But if we're going to open this up to every department, then I won't be on board with any of it, plain and simple.
And you could even argue the Board of Health, their role was not only did it stay consistent, it was expanded, it was magnified.
Yeah, agreed.
Right? They were doing more than they probably have ever done.
Well, that's a good point.
So I'm still where I was at the last meeting: police, fire, Board of Health, and the cafeteria workers.
How many employees? So the Board of Health would be 2 agents, and then would it be the 2 agents?
Well, technically, there's 4 people on the Board of Health: the nurse, the admin, and the 2 agents.
But the admin would qualify under the town hall, correct, or no?
I mean, I think they,
She worked with them on a daily basis.
But she didn't, did she leave the building? And the.
I don't think
and
so,
the
but-
job, the town hall was closed to the public. So you have the nurse and the 2 agents had to leave this building and continue to do their job, whereas the.
Yeah, but she still had to answer the phone,
Yeah,
she had to take messages.
right, they're
she
back
had
in the
to-
office.
She had to
To them
direct
when they
them,
came back in.
and, you know.
That's it.
you know, there wasn't any real separation in that office.
Yeah, we just got to be careful with that, because you could take that
Yeah.
logic pretty far, because everyone was next to someone who was next to
Right.
someone who was next to someone who was at risk. But I do, that is kind of a valid argument, though. If we're considering the Board of Health to be at risk, then someone that was in their office, I can see the logic in that argument. And how many employees would we be talking about? 2? I mean, it's people in the Board of Health that were not out in the field.
One.
1, so, yeah.
Yeah, and I'd have to confirm that.
Yeah.
But cafeteria was like 10 people, possibly, I'm still trying to figure out if you can pay someone that doesn't work here anymore. I've asked, the state is supposed to get back to me on that, whether it's okay if you're retired or if you left.
I mean, if someone leaves the town of Clinton for employment, I think that in my opinion, that disqualifies you. If you don't work here anymore, then.
Yeah, but if you worked here during the pandemic.
Yeah, you're no longer an employee of the town.
Yeah, but you did do your
No
duty.
longer here.
Yeah,
No longer here.
It
Let's
doesn't,
see
you
what
still.
let's see
Yeah,
what
let's
the
see what
state
Yeah, see what
says,
they
and then
say.
we can debate.
And then we'll duke
Might
it out.
not, maybe a moot point.
The fire department's about 20 people, the police department's about 23, and the cafeteria workers were about 10 people.
4.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I would move that we, as a board, agree to some compensation for those departments, and that at maybe our next meeting, we could set a legitimate settlement for them in compensation.
Second.
I'm willing to engage in the conversation going forward, but I don't know that I'm willing to commit to promising compensation. When we look at the numbers of the state, if I think that information is helpful, if we're finding that 25% of the state did not issue compensation, then I think that's something we could take a closer look at. Or, I'm sorry, 75%, but I'm open to considering it. I'm not in a position to promise anything.
So and just to be clear, Mary Rose, we're talking fire, police,
Yes.
Board of Health, and cafeteria workers.
Cafeteria.
Okay, yeah. My thought on that is I honestly don't care what the rest of the state did. I think the communities that chose not to give hazard pay probably did it because they don't want to deal with what we've been dealing with the last couple of weeks ever since we started talking about it, is every department clamoring and being upset that other departments are getting hazard pay when other ones aren't. And it's difficult, but I think it's the right thing to do is to reward our public servants that put themselves in risk when this pandemic was widespread and a lot of people had opportunities. I mean, eventually I had to go to work like everybody else, but for the first couple weeks or the first month of the pandemic, I had the opportunity to work from home like other town departments didn't. So I just think it would be to at least agree that we're going to give them some compensation and then work with Angela on what numbers make sense, I think is just the right thing to do, regardless of what other communities have chosen to do with their hazard pay.
Well, I would just say my justification in wanting to give them some compensation in those departments is I'll just take the police and fire. I mean, these people were going in, assisting and helping people in need, and they didn't really know for a long time the hazard that they were putting themselves into and the harm that they could have not only for themselves, but bring home to their families, but they still did it because it was their jobs. And so that's why I'm in favor of giving them some kind of compensation.
Any other? All in favor?
Aye.
Very good. Moving on, Town Administrator Report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a few items I'd like to pass on to the board tonight. First off, since the last meeting, the Clinton Police Department was awarded a grant from the Massachusetts Executive Office of Public Safety and Security in the amount of $160,248 to be used for the purchase of body-worn cameras for patrol officers. We were recently able to negotiate this working condition as part of the 2022-25 collective bargaining agreement, so the chief was able to go forward and look for funding. So that's good news. That's a big amount that'll allow him to move ahead with this initiative much sooner than he originally anticipated. So.
It's great. Mr. Chair, do we know when, as far as timing?
No, the award was just announced at the end of last week, so we have to get all the contract paperwork, and then he'd have to order them and bid. I don't know what the order time frame is. The state blanket contract on the Operational Service Division, they have vendors. So the chief did go to a webinar where they went through the whole process of how to order off of the state contract. So again, since the state has done a lot of that work, that can help move it along quicker as well too. But I'll try to ask him if he has a sense of what the ordering time frame is and how long it will be to be implemented.
Yeah, I want to thank the chief for going after this grant and thank the union for agreeing to take this on. It's not an easy time to be a cop, and anything we can do to maintain that trust with the public, and I think this is a big step forward. I know a lot of communities have dealt with a lot of resistance in this area, and I take my hat off to the union and leadership over there for understanding how important this is to maintain what, again, we're fortunate here that we have a good relationship with the community, but you can't take that for granted these days. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. Next would be a announcement for the Massachusetts Department of Environmental Protection of a grant award to the town of Clinton, the amount of $7,800 from the Sustainable Materials Recovery Program to be used for recycling initiatives. So generally, sometimes they have specific products that you need to buy, but this is just a general grant that can be used to help support the Recycle Center. The next item I wanted to pass on, I did get a call the other day from a government affairs rep from CSX Railway. The company has been investing $100 million for upgrades and repairs to the rail lines. They are also went into a merger with Pan Am, and they wanted to kind of let us know. He is sending me more detailed information, kind of a press release with more detailed numbers that are reasoning that we can use to, if we want to kind of inform the public. But based on upgrades that they've done to that Worcester to Air line on Pan Am line, currently the posted speed limit for that line is 25 miles per hour. Trains over the last several years have only been traveling probably around 10 miles an hour because the track was in so much disrepair. So now that those upgrades have been done, that they'll probably immediately, if not by now, starting to ramp up to the 25 miles an hour. And based on that Class 3 rail improvements that they've done, they're looking in November to get that speed limit up to 40 miles an hour. So, their position is based on the improvements in the signalization that they're doing, is that this 40 miles an hour is going to be much safer than the 10 mile an hour of the old track that was in disrepair. Again, I'm waiting on more information for their explanation, but they are looking to try to get information to the municipal officials, but also, if we can help get it out to the community so that motorists will be aware at crossings that the trains will probably be going a little bit faster than they have in the past. So once I get more information, I'll pass that on to the board.
Mr. Chair, who gets to vote on that?
I was going to ask the same.
lobbyists.
Yeah,
Is this
I don't think on a,
request or
Not us, I guess.
yeah, not on a local level, absolutely, yeah. But again, once I get more information, whether that's something that they already have authority to do, or it's something that they're applying for, that I'm not sure, so, but
Ed can help me out here, but that's almost double, I think.
I think so. Let me check my phone. We might have to ask them for the,
Can they-
instead of just the blinking lights, maybe we need the little stick to come down too,
yeah,
since the train's gonna be
crossing
going faster.
barrier, yeah.
And this is totally out of our hands, whether is this a state decision, or we don't know?
Yeah, we don't know. I just wanted to get it out there. It just called me the other day, so
look
I just
out.
wanted to get that out there. And
Train's
they're
coming
gonna send me a press release with more detail, and I haven't gotten it yet, so.
Yeah. Okay. Is that the same contact that was here at a select board meeting a couple years ago when they first, different?
No, he was from Chicago. He was more the national government affairs rep. So the gentleman I spoke with was the Northeast regional contact, so, yeah.
All right. Yeah, just a side note too, we had a very brief kind of back and forth when that guy was here last about a possible collaboration on, what? You guys laughing at? You knew I was going to bring it up? A possible collaboration on
Almost
on
campaign
cleaning up some of the bridges, especially in the downtown area. I mean, he seemed open to it. Obviously, he's not going to agree to it, but he didn't say like absolutely not. I don't know,
Right,
might be
and
worth it.
Mr. Duffy has been having meetings with the railroad about
Okay.
some of those issues.
Yeah.
And I did bring it up on our conversation
Oh, okay.
to this gentleman as well. And, they term some of those improvements into beautification, and it's
Sure.
not something that they focus on, because he said they have, I think he quoted, is it 17,000, in my notes, 17,000 bridges or more that they have across the country. And once they start setting a precedent that they're going to do it here in Clinton, then it's something they have to hold through to the.
Just let it go in disrepair for, yeah.
Yeah, so they're definitely, looking to keep safety. So if there is some, structural issues or safety issues, they'll definitely be all ears. But if it's just enhancing the visual look of it, they're willing to work with the communities,
Yeah.
but they're not going to take on the projects themselves.
Maybe if it's just in a consulting fashion to like guide us, because I'm sure there's going to be a cavalcade of regulations and things you can do, things you can't do, since cars are going to be going under there. So maybe if they could just help us to try to like navigate that, and then like we take a look at what the cost would be, maybe that would be a kind of collaboration like that.
I mean, I would think a partnership if they're, because it sounds like they're not willing to foot the whole bill, but they might not
Just
be
don't stand in
opposed to
our
doing
way.
it.
That's why I was hoping we had to approve the 40 miles an hour.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, right.
Clean up
Some
your bridges
leverage.
first, buddy.
Right.
Yeah.
No, they definitely technical assistance, they'd be more than happy to work with us
Okay.
and help us on, so, yep, absolutely. So,
Are all the railways that come through the Worcester to Airline, or is there just certain ones? Because it feels like they're crisscrossing
Yeah.
a bit in certain, they're all Worcester to Air.
Yeah, no, there's one,
Or there's-
the CSX line, they merged together, but the Pan Am line was Worcester to Air, and then the CSX goes from, Leominster area and down that way. So they are going two different directions. So they're going, so Pan
Marlboro
Am would be north to south, so
Yeah.
it would be, east to west, the other one would be going. So, but it's all the same company now. So, yeah, so it's.
Okay.
it's-
Excellent.
They did a lot of upgrades that the state wanted around the Wachusett Reservoir to make it safer for any derailment that might happen near the water supply. So, they were highlighting some of that work as well too, but they feel, proud of that. They said the track was in bad shape, and that this Class 3 rail improvements are really making a huge, huge difference, so we'll see. But more information I get, I'll pass it on as soon as I find out more, so.
Thanks.
Very good.
The next item, just as, FYI to the board, to make sure there's no opposition or concern, but the The Clinton Area Chamber of Commerce will be running an awareness campaign to let businesses in the town know that the organization's in place and here to advocate and help the region. Some of their member companies will be displaying lawn signs on their property, kind of just showing the chamber logo. I don't know exactly. I know Mr. David Sullivan from the chamber is here. He might maybe have more information on what the message will say. But they're also asking to maybe if the town was willing to put some of these lawn signs on some town property. They talked about one at the police station, one at the fire station, and maybe some around Central Park. I did advise that Central Park, they would need to contact the Parks and Recreation Department. I did talk with the police chief and fire chief, and they don't have any concerns with putting them up in front of their facilities. The building inspector did say the bylaw, would allow it, but there's a time frame. So as long as they adhere to that timeline, that he would be fine with it as well too. So I just wanted to make sure that the board was okay, that there was no concerns or opposition to doing that.
You're offering free karate or pot delivery at all? If you find one of those signs, just replace it.
Maybe if I could just, maybe if Mr. Sullivan, just to maybe indicate what to look for, what the signs would say, what you're looking to do with this campaign.
1 minute here.
Just introduce yourself, please.
David Sullivan, Worcester Regional Chamber of Commerce, representing the Clinton Chamber. This is pretty much what it would look like. Pretty simple, just as joined today. It's been 10 years since we've had a chamber, so just want to make sure folks are aware that we're back in town. We're up to about 58 members, just as a FYI. We have our annual meeting on October 25th, so you'll all be formally invited to that tomorrow. I'll make sure to email you all, but we'll have the administrator there to give some welcome remarks. Our keynote is Dr. Steve Meyer, so I'll talk a little bit about the new middle school project and other things that are going on. So,
Just a question. What does it take for a business to join the Chamber of Commerce? What will be...
Yeah, just join online on our website, and it's an annual due, and you get access to all the events, all of the benefits, not only for the Clinton Chamber, but for Worcester and other affiliate chambers in the region.
Excellent.
And if I can just ask, do you know off the top of your head what the time frame is for how long the signs could be posted?
I don't. Yeah,
Okay.
Didn't want to quote. But
happy.
Yeah, generally it would follow kind of what the political campaign signs would be. So there's a period, before and after the event. But this isn't really an event, but that timeline would be in the bylaw, zoning bylaw. So.
Okay. Yeah. Happy to talk with anybody in your office about.
Sure. The building inspector is a zoning agent, so he would have that exact information, so we can find out in the morning.
Okay. Yeah. Great. Sounds awesome.
Thank you very
That's
much.
pretty much it.
Good luck.
Thank you all. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. And just the last item that I just wanted to put forward, I think on your desk tonight, I had placed kind of a red line markup of the Superintendent of Public Works job description that we had discussed at the last meeting. Human Resources was working with the Superintendent, Mr. McGowan, to kind of look to see if the current description was encompassing all the duties of the job. This would have to certainly go through Personnel Board and that whole process, but wanted the board, select board, to take a look and see if there was anything that stood out. So nothing, decisions that would be needed tonight. Just wanted to put that forward, and the board could review it if you wanted to bring it up at another meeting to discuss or approve or make modifications.
So as far as the, if the board was to move forward with hiring a consultant, would they need approval? Would the job description need to be approved prior to it being posted?
No.
Okay.
No. I think the HR had indicated, Christine Purple had indicated that they can go forward with the draft. It's mostly if sometimes candidates would ask for a job description, so
Yep.
then they would just be stamped on it that it's a working draft. But so we can certainly go forward with the process until that's done.
Is there a requirement to be, to live within so many miles of the town of Clinton for that position?
No.
Is that something that, so just thinking if, somebody was to apply, who lives an hour and a half away, how,
I mean, I can double check, there was an enabling statute that set up that department and that position, so I can
Understood.
double check the statute, but I don't recall from my past reading of it that there was anything in there that stated that. Some towns have a bylaw that requires either town residency or something to that effect. We don't have that.
Okay.
Police and fire through civil service law,
Yeah.
they have that through that statute. But certainly we can double check, but I'm not aware of anything off the top of my head.
understood. Very good.
Thank you.
Excellent. Moving on to fiscal year 2024 goal setting. So I had just drafted a couple goals that I would like the board to consider as far as a select board goal. And then just to gauge, do we want to roll the goals over that are there? Are there any there that anyone feels could be removed? But of course I won't find it right now. Give me 1 second. So the two areas that I was looking at were, one would be a goal centered around technology for the town of Clinton, which I don't recall there being something in there that kind of tackles that, but essentially to modernize and advance technology within municipal operations, enhancing efficiency, transparency, and service delivery for the benefit of our community was one. And then the second one was something centered around a beautification goal. So to maintain and enhance the aesthetic appeal for our town, ensuring it remains a beautiful and inviting place to live and visit. And what that would entail would be, landscape preservation, street and sidewalk maintenance, public art and murals, trash and litter control, building facade improvements, street furniture and lighting, seasonal decorations, community engagement, sustainability, promotion and tourism. So a lot of things that are already happening, but to kind of have that be a focus of the select board's attention. So I can put those on paper to share with everyone. But I would say we want to, for our next meeting, I think we want to finalize the goals for the select board, and then we can create, then Michael can create his goals from that. I had reached out to Human Resources just on a little bit of guidance, and I don't know if there was a miscommunication, but the HR manager didn't want to get in between setting goals for the town administrator and the select board, but I was more looking for like the verbiage where some of the feedback that she had provided to us was there was kind of some gray areas, and some were more like a select board goal versus town administrator. So I just wanted to, all I was looking for was to really try to shape it so there isn't gray area, right? So then whatever the goal is, it's
like clearer.
Exactly,
Yeah.
there's more clear.
clarity,
So,
yeah.
if this is if the select board approves the goals, then, have some differentiation, so then this is an actionable item. So I can touch base with her, or I can, you know, we can touch base.
No, sure,
offline.
and that'd be great, and then even from my perspective, I mean, I think if the board certainly has kind of an overall strategy that we can focus on and push out to departments to say, here are things that we want you to make importance, a higher importance, but in terms of for me, things that you're looking to evaluate at the next round, to be able to have it's a project or something that I could say was check off that was done, or that's something that you're looking for. So if I'm doing it this way and you wanted it this way, just so that I know that I'm fulfilling that. That's all. So, yep. So that would be great.
Perfect. And Christine had also had suggested for the select board, looking at setting up a strategic plan, and then baby steps, right? But that was kind of the direction, right? So
Yeah.
we've been very clear in this is an ongoing process. So we now, where the evaluations are in place and we have goals and objectives that we're aiming for, then big picture would be shaping a strategic plan, right? So it's something to consider, would be something multi-year. So I figured I'd throw that on everybody's radar, so then that way, that's kind of the next action item we may want to reach.
Yeah, and that's, yeah, and that would be something certainly a bigger project. It's interesting you bring that up, because over the summer, I was talking with Dr. Meyer about strategic planning and, you know, what they've done at the school. And he said they do a 5-year plan that they have to do a requirement from the state. And they had a consultant facilitate that 5 years ago. And he said that the plan is coming due this year. So the 5 years is up now and they have to renew it. So I said, well, maybe, you know, it's something we could work on, collaborate on, if they're going to hire another facilitator or consultant to do that. But he said he feels that at this point, you know, they hadn't gotten into it yet, but but it may be something that they're just updating it, so it might be something they're doing in-house. So when they created the whole document, the whole process 5 years ago, they used, you know, someone from the outside, but since they already have that framework, they might just kind of in-house update it this time around. So if we're starting from scratch, we can look at, you know, what towns have done in that process. Some have done it huge, like with, you know, surveys and citizen input. Others have done it with board direction on what the board would like that plan to be. So we certainly can get more information on that as well.
Excellent. Very good. So for the next meeting, if I would say if we can provide any recommendations to Michael before we post that agenda, so that way if there's any recommendations on removing, modifying, or adding, then let's be prepared to discuss them at the next meeting and then be prepared for a vote, I would say.
So, Mr. Chair, in that spirit, then should the three that we have listed here, I mean, we don't have to go into a deep discussion, but I guess I just leave it open up to the board. Is there anyone that has issue or has questions with the three goals that are listed here? Just so that we can kind of have the heads up, so that when we get to the next select board meeting, we'll know that, you know, these are ones that we're probably going to have to hash out. Or is there general kind of agreement in these three goals that we have listed that we think that there might be value to them?
So I think, based upon the feedback from Human Resources, my understanding is these tasks would fall under one of the objectives within our goal, right? So this would be an action item, so it wouldn't actually necessarily be like an overarching goal.
I know, just, that's fine, but just this whole policy versus procedure thing will like beat our heads into the desk forever. Just to, I understand that, but like
this has nothing to do with policy or procedure.
No, because I think, well, correct me if I'm wrong, but what you're saying is like some of these things are too specific, and they're saying they want like a goal for, and then have this be an action item that comes out of that goal. And I'm just advising to just don't spend too much time going down that rabbit hole, because you'll drive yourself crazy.
Super simple. So the technology goal initiative that I had just mentioned tonight, right?
Yeah.
So Munis implementation would fall under that goal. Okay? So unless you just want one goal to be the Munis implementation, so then once it's done, then that's over, then that's, no, that's not.
So it's what I want.
Yes, it's a task that if the board wants to prioritize it to get it done, but yes, it will fit within an objective.
All right, so what's the overarching goal?
Stick to the math.
What's the overarching goal for union negotiations scheduling?
I don't have the current goals in front of me.
Okay. All right.
But I would say, I can't.
You're bringing up an old argument that we would have on the school board all the time of, like, goals, and when I say policy versus procedure, that's kind of like what that we would constantly argue about. That used to kind of drive me crazy. At some point, I don't really see a difference, but I'm fine with, we'll work it out.
Maybe we can back into it like, what is the problem we're trying to solve here? And then back it out to a specific goal, but like what issue is there with union negotiation scheduling, and then kind of back out what the goal is from there.
I agree, and it's, to your point, yes, it's something that can be fit in. It's just not gonna be like, because I think we talked about doing like 5. I think that was kind of the number. So we'll find a slot for it, and if we don't, then we can create a broader goal to make sure it fits in. So very good. And then next, administrative business. There was no items listed. Moving on to old and new business, the Clinton Holiday Pops donation request. What's the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chair, I move that we donate $500 out of the Civic Fund for the 26th Annual Clinton Holiday Pops Concert.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. DPW Superintendent Recruitment Consultant. Do you want to take this, Mr. Ward?
Sure, thank you, Mr. Chair. The Human Resources had put out solicited quotes from 3 companies that do this type of work. There was one response from Community Paradigm Associates. So if it's something we wanted to move forward with, it would be a $9,000 cost. And if the board wanted to move forward, would also ask as part of that motion to request those funds from the Finance Committee so that we can put a transfer request to them as well. So, but there it's again a position that's starting to open up around multiple communities. I know when Christine had spoken to Mr. Lynch, who's the principal there, he said they were currently involved in a superintendent search right now. They were putting a proposal together for Clinton, and just after they sent that over to her for Clinton, they got a call for a proposal for a superintendent of public works from another community as well too. So, so some of these, more, technical department head positions are getting difficult to fill.
No, so that would require a motion tonight to go forward, including that would include the placing the request with FinCom.
Right,
for the transfer.
exactly, yeah. So if you're able to, feel comfortable going forward with that tonight, I know, the proposal just came in, so we could then ask Finance to review it, and then they could get started right away instead of waiting another 2 weeks for the next meeting. So,
Mr. Chair, I think we had a good relationship with Community Paradigm in our last search, so I would move that we approve a $9,000 contract with them for consulting for the DPW superintendent. Does this have to be 2, you think? 2 motions?
Yeah, probably, yeah,
Okay.
probably two, yeah.
Second?
All in favor? Or any discussion?
Sorry.
Nope.
Sorry, all in favor?
Aye.
And I would move that we request a $9,000 transfer from the reserve fund through the finance committee.
Second?
Any discussion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
I did speak to the chair of the finance committee. They're meeting on Tuesday, and I can attend. She had asked if I would come in just to kind of, explain some of the details around it. So I don't know if that's out of the ordinary or.
No, that's fine, yeah, I didn't realize they were already meeting, so it's even better, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
So I can go, and if you want to join, if you're here, Tuesday, 5 PM
Okay.
is the number. Very good. Technology assessment update.
Just a quick update, we did last week, the final piece, they had a tech was out and went through all the town buildings, did an inventory, physical inventory of all of the machines that we have in all the departments. So, so they had their software, software engineer, I think, who came out initially and met with department heads, and then they sent out their tech to do the inventory. So they have all the information now. They said it would probably be 2 to 3 weeks to get a report, a draft report, after that inventory last week. So hopefully it should be soon.
Possibly the next meeting.
Potentially, yeah.
That'd be great. Very good. And then that would allow us an opportunity to consider the request that came in through the ARPA funds for the technology.
Right.
Next, the customer service professional development update.
Sure, I did speak with Christine briefly, and she's been back and forth with a consultant on that employee survey, so it's expected to be going out, I think she said completed next week to be sent to employees. So they just wanted more input for the employees to come up with their final report of recommendations. So that's what she told me this afternoon. So.
Mr. Chair, just kind of related to that, is that the last professional development activity that we've done? The customer service professional development?
Right, that was the last town-wide one that was done. I mean, there are different departments that'll do training within their own department.
Gotcha.
But the town-wide service, that was done on that.
Okay.
And then Christine did put money in her budget to do more of that this fiscal year as well.
Yeah, that was I was just curious if there was anything on the radar, that's all. And if the answer is no, that's fine, but I was just curious.
Yeah, yep, she definitely has a plan to do some. I don't have the exact topic right now, which she's looking to do.
Perfect, great, thank you.
Very good. Next item, High Street Sidewalk Consultant Site Tour Update. Did you have any updates on the side, or I can provide a couple?
On this topic?
Is this, yes.
Yeah, no, nothing. We've been trying to reach out to the consultant that did the work down there to see if we could have the board take a tour and have them at least, walk with us and just, be available for a little bit of insight, and haven't been able to get any contact, so.
Perfect. So I had spoke with Michael about this, and he had provided the contact information for the individual. So I basically spoke to Beta and escalated it, and so there's supposed to be someone is returning from vacation today, and they said they would reach out. So the hope is we can get somebody here to walk through. I know Ed had cataloged all the images and whatnot, so hopefully we can get that going in the next couple of weeks, because the concern is once we hit winter, those cracks are only going to get worse. Very good. And then for community,
Can I stick something in there, Mr. Chair? Sorry, it happened last night, so I was, I would have put it on the agenda. Just it's sort of a follow-up. A couple weeks ago, I mentioned my conflicting emotions about parking on quasi-town properties. It was about Sterling Street last time. Just some backstory, my family and I have a dog now. His name's Harry. He's a very good dog, but he gets a little, he's still a puppy, so he gets a little frisky in the at the middle of the night. So I took him for a walk last night around 10:30, and I was down on High Street by Gene's Towing, Gene's Auto, and there was someone parked in the thing. And it was a young woman, and there was a guy with his feet sticking out. So it seemed like they were just kind of hanging out. So I said, hey, this isn't a parking lot. And she told me to go F myself several times. I'm old enough to remember when that side of the street was, or that end of the street was a wasteland. And I know, this is where I'm conflicted, because I know the barbershop uses it for, overflow, although I do see them parking on the sidewalk a lot, which is not cool, speaking of deteriorating sidewalks. Again, I'm a little conflicted here, because while I want to help a business out during the day at 10:30 at night when there's plenty of parking on the street, if a site like that is attracting ruffians or ne'er-do-wells, then I think we owe it to the people. We put a lot of money into that street. We owe it to the businesses at that end to not let it fall into that, because again, when I was in my 20s and 30s, it was dark and it was a place where people did not go. So this is, I'm sure it's a very isolated incident, but not exactly what I was hoping for in that thing. I don't know, again, this is just in the case file, I guess, but it wasn't what I expected when I pointed out that she wasn't supposed to be parking there.
Yeah, no, thank you, because it's certainly, I don't want to advocate any overnight parking if people are using it for residential or parking there regularly. Like you said, there are cars that I've seen during the day for overflow when it's busy there, but not that people are just using it as their own private residential parking. So we'll have the police take a look at that. The building inspector has been trying to catch or speak with the Sterling Street issue.
I did see one
I
last
did
week.
see it.
Yeah.
I drove by a couple hours ago. I'm like, oh, there's the tractor trailer.
It never leaves.
It
So he did go there today. There was supposedly somebody that was supposed to be there. When he got there, they weren't there. The truck was there, but he wasn't. But we did get some information about who we think might be the owner. So he's going to follow up with them tomorrow. So hopefully we'll get that issue resolved as well too.
Again, it's nothing I'm pretending to have a solution to. It's just just to get the board thinking, because again, that's one, I'm not sure where to go on that. I certainly don't like, I didn't identify myself, not that it would have helped, I would have explained it actually if I'd identified myself, because I get that a lot more than not. But, just someone walking down the street to be tackled like that, I don't know, it's just not what we were hoping for when we kind of turned the corner on that end of the street.
That was my question. When she told you to go away, did you say, I'm a selectman?
No, I said you're making a poor choice.
I don't believe you.
No, I did not.
Special agent.
So, undercover.
Is there a possibility of something that's like a tasteful
fence?
Yeah, something to keep vehicles from being able to even park in there, because like we've talked about it even the last meeting where that parking lot's in rough shape.
Kinda, like
it is. It's
last night I cut
the jeans.
My first choice was just put some Jersey berries up and speak
The
out.
parking, yes, the parking area. Well, I guess because if you
Just put a hot dog stand there.
Yeah.
but just
okay.
something that
I guess
would,
you just see it as a piece of
I'm
land.
not looking to put up a fence, but something that would maybe take that option away.
I hope, well, maybe that's something we can, I know last year we kind of revisited with Phil. He gave us a list of all the different town-owned properties and the various stages of development that they're in and environmental, what's the word when they take all the bad chemicals out?
Yes,
Yeah, remediation. So maybe it'd be worth revisiting that with Phil and just getting another list of, where they're at with that stuff. Because it's been a long time.
Yeah, it
I'd like to
has.
see that property turned into something.
And again, not to beat this horse too dead, but while that was a concern, frankly, I am more concerned with it becoming a slippery slope where there's a sense of entitlement down there where now they're parking on the sidewalk, where there isn't a space And that can't be happening at all. So I'm hoping that our friends in the police department will notice that. I don't expect them to be, taking inventory in that lot, but if anyone's parking on that, I've seen the damage that's done on Water Street. Now people are doing it on High Street. That's just not a standard we want to be setting. So that's what I'm afraid down that end, that again, I don't know how tight we want to be, but I can see that the lenience is, there's some trickle down where people feel they can park large vehicles on that sidewalk, and that's no good for that street.
No, I don't want to see that happening. But even on the site, if the board feels sectioning it off, we do have some of those plastic Jersey barriers that we could put there, or try to maybe put a couple of the planters or something.
Yeah, see, and that's I would look at, like, I'm not, I think to keep it aesthetically the least intrusive with
Yeah, and there, on the other side, there are, what are those booths that were supposed to be installed on High Street that are
Right,
there?
but they store them, yeah,
So
over
they store
there.
them there. Are they ever going to get installed, or?
Well, those were ones that were out, and then they store them there in the winter, so I think they're.
Yeah, but I'm saying,
they're
were they
supposed to
out,
be.
they weren't out in the summer?
I know, this, it almost looks like a ramp.
Yeah, I think they were supposed to go on
Like on
Church Street, like by Zaytoons, I think, or like Tie Time, where it's a slope to allow them to eat outside. It gives them something a little flatter. That's my assumption. Maybe, and I'll talk to the chair, maybe we could get Mr. Duffy on here. Just, again, I'm not pretending to have any solutions. I'm just seeing some budding problems that I'd love to nip before they get too ballooned.
Just problems, no
Very
solutions.
good.
It's all the new business. Breaking news.
Any other old and new? All right, so community announcements, Rocher Farm, Give Nature a Hand, Saturday, October 21st from 9 a.m. until 1 p.m. at Rocher Farm, 29 Clamshell Road. Come for an hour or two and help cut back invasive weeds and remove old fencing. Please bring gloves and wear work clothes. Bring tools if you have them available. The rain date is October 28th. Community and Economic Development Volunteer and Beer Fest is scheduled for this Sunday, October 8th from 12 to 4 p.m. on High Street between Church Street and Pierce Place. Enjoy beer, food, and fun, and learn about local nonprofit organizations. There will be food trucks, food booths, inflatable amusements, beer vendors, and street games. If you would like to volunteer at the event, please email downtown@clintonma.gov with your availability. And a couple of things happening within the public schools. Tomorrow, the Clinton High School football game versus West Boylston will take place at 3:30 p.m. There were some scheduling issues, so that game will be played tomorrow, 3:30 p.m. at West Boylston. That's the Clinton High School varsity football team. Tomorrow night, the boys and girls soccer programs have organized a cancer awareness event. So tomorrow will be pink night. There will be a soccer game. Who plays at 5?
Boys are at 5,
Boys are
girls
at 5
7.
p.m. and then the girls are at 7 p.m. It is a fundraiser as well, right, to raise
Perishable food, perishable goods and stuff.
There you go.
Yeah, oh yeah, bake sale and, food drive. for
Food
perishable,
drive.
yeah.
So bake sale, food drive for the soccer teams. And pink out, wear your pink. Very good. And then on Friday at 6 p.m., the Clinton High School field hockey team, undefeated field hockey team, I hope I didn't jinx them saying that, but the field hockey team is also having a cancer awareness event, and they're going to be playing, they'll be wearing, you can wear your pink that night as well.
Yep.
So thank you to the groups for putting those events together. And our next meeting is going to be October 18th, Wednesday, October 18th. And the last, just for, do we have a date on the Halloween walk is
No.
October
26.
26th, Thursday, October 26th is the Halloween walk
Yep.
down on High Street. And time, I think it was
6 to 8.
6 to 8 p.m., 6 to 8 p.m.
I also believe there's donation buckets around for candy.
Oh, yeah.
Is that downstairs and at the police station?
Hannaford.
Shaw's, Hannaford's, police station,
Rite Aid.
Town Hall, Rite Aid, thank you. Yeah.
I know in speaking with a few businesses on High Street, they're very excited for the event to showcase the business and engage with the kids.
Hopefully my friend can get her spots. Be out and about.
Very good. Outside of that, thank you very much. I'll accept a
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.